Good morning. All right, I'm so excited about this today because we're going to talk about like my favorite things, food, and lawyering and business. So, as she said, my name's Billie Tarascio. I'm the owner of Modern Law, which is a family law firm in Phoenix. A lot of my team is here. I don't practice law anymore. I stopped at the beginning of 2018. And really just focus now on building and growing the business, which is hard. And it's hard to do both. Access Legal is Modern Law's sister company. It's a legal document prep company, so paralegal assisted divorce. It's our low-cost, low bono, pro bono arm. So we have resources for people who can't afford attorneys. And then Modern Law Practice is all about taking the best practices and lessons from the industry and across the industry to build an infrastructure for your firm. And today we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about building an infrastructure for your law firm. So, who likes pizza? Everybody loves pizza. Couple fun things about pizza. October is National Pizza Month here in the United States. Fun. Everyone in America eats about 46 slices a year. And pizza accounts for 10% of all food sales in the entire nation. Pizza's a big deal. I am proposing that you think about your law firm the way you think about pizza. And the dough, the crust, is your foundation. It's your base values, it's your vision, values, and culture, and it really sets up your law firm to grow. It's everything that you build your pizza on top of. The sauce is the next most important layer, and that's your people. That's who you hire. That's your systems and your processes and the way that your law firm works. Makes everything flow together. It's the next layer. Cheese is getting clients. You need clients. Really, you need to know what you're doing, which is your crust. You need the right people on your team, and you need cheese for an amazing pizza. But after that comes toppings, which is the really fun part that we like to spend a lot of time on, and that's the data and the key performance indicators and the technology and the automation, which I love. But if you don't have the other layers, it can be hard to really make those work for you as well as they could. And then we have afterbakes or the extras like basil, fresh basil on your pizza, or Parmesan, or a glass of wine that just makes it better. And for me, those are things like subscription services, alternative offerings, cool flat fees, or workshops, those fun things that are maybe outside of what we do as our core function of a law firm, but are pretty cool and make your law firm all that much better. So let's talk about your vision, values, and culture and why they're so important. Your vision, value, and culture should be your constitution. And if you think about the Constitution of the United States, it says a lot about who we are as a country, and you can read our Constitution and know kind of what we're about. It's so powerful that people from all over the world can know our Constitution, know our values, and be drawn to us. So when your law firm culture and vision and values are that locked down, are that specific, you have a cheat sheet. You now have something that will tell you exactly who you are, that will help you hire the right people, that will help you build on top of. Now, how many people have one of these in their law firm stated values right now? Integrity, knowledge, compassion, professionalism. Raise your hand if one of those is part of your law firm values. Okay, not as many as I thought. I thought there would be a lot more. But these were our values the first time we went through this exercise. And what does it say about my law firm? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. My law firm could be like any other law firm. So it's not a constitution. It doesn't help you make decisions. But it's hard to get this done right. And I know that because we did it wrong. We went through an exercise of trying to figure out who we were. And the first time we did it, it just didn't go well. And it takes a long, long time. So in my firm, here's what happened. We were falling apart. We'd started out as a low-cost, pay-as-you-go law firm when I first opened in Arizona. So it was $99 an hour. It was pay-as-you-go. There was no trust money. Like, we knew exactly who we were. We got 1,000 clients in year one. We knew everybody. We knew exactly what we were doing, but that meant that we were hiring contract lawyers. We couldn't pay great salaries. Like, it was hard. And it turned out that that wasn't the law firm that I wanted, and we began to morph into something else that looked like a more traditional firm. We had trust accounts. We were now not doing just limited scope as we were when we first opened. And that was great. We were making a lot of money. We had more clients than ever. It was going well. But we didn't really know who we were. I'd never taken the time to figure out, okay, we were really crystal clear that we were this low-cost, limited scope firm, increasing access to justice. That's who we were. And then we had become something else, which I think just happens, and we didn't know what that was. And as a result, everything was sort of falling apart. Everybody was bickering. People were unhappy. Lots of clients were unhappy. And I ran around trying to put out fires everywhere I went. Bring me your problems. I'll fix them. I'll fix them. I'll fix them. That didn't really work. But I kept trying until it was clear that this was going to fall out. Like, the bottom of this law firm was going to fall out if I didn't do something. And so I brought in a facilitator, and we did a retreat, and she went through and she took us through communication exercises, and we took some personality testing, and we really kind of learned more about who we were. And we started a structure of agendas and meetings and things that real companies do. And it was great. And part of that was our values work, where we came up with integrity, knowledge, compassion, professionalism, and it was really useful. It was really useful. Things got better. We became more structured. Then I came to Clio in, I think it was 2015, and saw Jules Miller talk on culture. And she talked about the difference between Facebook, Apple, and Google, and the different constitutions that they have, their different values. And we all think Facebook, Apple, and Google are, I mean, they're all in the same area, they're all giant tech companies, they're pretty similar, right? No, they're not. The way that they approach business and their values and what drives them is not the same. And she described what that looked like, and I realized I had done it wrong. We didn't know who we were, really. So we went back to the office. Jules sent me the presentation. We did a all-day retreat with the team, and for the first time, I really started listening to my people tell me what they thought was important in our firm, what they valued. And I had never before really truly listened to my employees in that way. I'd listened to them complain. I mean that in the nicest way, guys. I had listened to them tell me what they didn't like, but I had never listened to the things that truly made them want to work at Modern Law. And so I realized a couple things. Serving my employees was going to be just as important as serving my clients. I was always thinking about my clients, right? Getting them what they needed. But I can't do business without employees either. I can't run my firm without great employees who know what we're doing. And so we spent about a half a day writing down on sticky notes all these things that they valued and all these things that I valued. And then I took those away and I lived with them and I put them on my wall and I lived with them for about 6 weeks and went through this great self-reflection exercise and came up with 3 values. And these values are really to my core who I am. Your values, your law firm values, belong to the owner. They're shared by your team, but if you as the owner don't find them, and you're not aspiring to be them, you're not deciding who you want to be, you're uncovering the magic that you have, what makes you great, what makes you tick, why should people come to you? And the reason that's important is because you're going to use that for hiring, and we're going to get there. But these are the 3 values that we came up with: whole health, growth, and then creativity, optimism, bravery, and empathy, which stands, we turned that into COBE. It's a little acronym for our made-up word, COBE. And those are all well and good, right? Those are pretty. I love the pictures. But I took each one of them and wrote down, what does this mean? What is the contract between me and my clients? What am I promising through my values that I'm going to do for my clients? And then what is the contract that I am making with my employees? What am I promising my employees? And I know this is a little long, but we're going to go through it because it's hard to understand. This isn't necessarily intuitive, but for clients, it means that we serve our clients with long-term benefits and whole health in mind. We communicate in the ways that best suits the clients. For some, it's phone. Others prefer email. Some prefer in-person meetings. We're looking for the best solution for you. Sometimes this means going around the legal process and not through it. Okay. The reason it's important to have this written down is because it tells clients what to expect. And it's our commitment to them. It also dictates the way that we practice law. We're not going to simply march everyone through a process. We're not. We're going to look for creative solutions. We're going to try to go around the legal system. We're making a commitment to keep in mind their long-term whole health. Similarly, same thing for operations. Every person in my firm has different preferences, styles, limitations. We have flexibility and accountability. This was something I always struggled with because I'm not a micromanager. I'm hands-off. I want people to just do what they're supposed to do, right? We're entrepreneurs. Law firm owners are entrepreneurs. And mostly what that means is we get our stuff done. And we kind of, we don't need a whole lot of guidance, but most people are not the same way. And if you have a team, if everybody does their own thing, you don't have an actual company. So coming up with this way to articulate the need to balance personal accountability and ultimate flexibility was tough. And we do that through data, and we do that through KPIs. It also says here that we're going to invest in everything. My employees' physical, emotional, and spiritual health, not just CLEs. That means we in my firm pay for counseling for anybody who wants to get counseling. I recently told someone I would pay for a personal trainer if that was something that they wanted to do to meet their goals. So this is my commitment to them. At the same time, they have to meet their obligations to the company and to the clients. So how does this get applied to the firm? You need to make some decisions about who you are. Are you cauliflower crust? Are you whole wheat? Are you thin? Are you deep dish? Nobody can be amazing and be all of these things. So you have to take some time and really think about this, because then once you know who you are, once you really live with it and breathe it and write it down, everything gets easier. That's why this is the crust, and that's the most important first hack. Next comes sauce, and sauce is flavor. It's what makes everything stick together, and all the toppings and cheese stay on better. You can have pizza without sauce, but it's just not great. This is your people, your processes. Hiring is hard. Hiring is really hard, and management and training is probably harder, at least for me. And getting the right people makes this a whole lot easier. People plus a structure makes management work, and anytime our management falls off, we suffer. People need ongoing support, just like any other relationship. So determining if you have the right people is the first step. This is a tool from the book Traction. Traction is probably my favorite, most recommended business book. If you haven't read Traction, read it. This thing is called the People Analyzer, and here's how it works. You take the values on the top and your people's names on the side, and then you go through and you evaluate. Do my employees possess these values all the time, which is a plus, sometimes plus/minus, or not really, negative. And we do this every single quarter because things change. We hired a gentleman about a year ago, and we went through the People Analyzer, and I think he really, really wanted to embody these values, and we thought that he did, but it was kind of clear over the year that it just wasn't working. Like, we had him on a performance improvement plan, clients were complaining, employees were complaining, like it wasn't going well. So, and every quarter we do reviews, and so we sat down with my managing attorney and we went through this exercise, and when we got to that person's name, it was all negatives, and it was just, in 2 days, he was gone. Like, this is not personal. It just cannot work. Like, if you don't share the values of the firm, it will not work. Here's why. When people come to hire Modern Law, they want me. It's not just that they want me, Billie. They want the essence of what we are selling, what I'm selling to them, which is creative solutions, empathy. It's being a supportive friend who's on their journey. That's the energy they come to hire. So if I try to hand off a client that hires me to a lawyer who's grumpy, It doesn't work, and I tried it. I mean, so when we first went through this exercise, I had this gentleman working for me who was fabulous, just really good. I had done a great job hiring him by all traditional methods. My facilitator had helped me hire him. I had talked to his bosses, I had talked to his coworkers, I had talked to his clients. He was a solid attorney, but the dude was grumpy. He didn't want to be friends with anybody. We were out on a Christmas party, and Caitlin, my office manager, asked him, like, are we friends now? And he's like, we're friendly. And this was after like 2 years. So even though I really like this guy and he's awesome, he had to go. Like, it wasn't a good fit, right? And that's why that's important. So how do you attract the right people? I think about hiring like dating. Like, you can have that profile, like my friend that I was just talking about who had to go, who met all the boxes, checked all the boxes. But you're really looking for kind of chemistry. You're kind of looking for magic. If you're going to work with these people for years and years, 40 or more hours a week, you want to click. So one of the things that I'm doing now is I'm making my team superstars in our branding. Why? To attract the right people. So they told me it was important to have a work-life balance. Totally agree, 100%. We now close early every Friday and do yoga for anybody who wants to. So this is Darren, who's over here, doing the crow. And we put this stuff on social media. We have a campaign about modern law so that people who want that, who are attracted to that, now come to me for jobs. It's not like it's foolproof. We also use the people analyzer. We still do background checks, but that sort of thing helps make sure that you get the right people on board. So, manager tools. Management has been the hardest thing for me to tackle and the most important. It's made arguably one of the biggest differences in my firm. And we do a lot of different experiments. But this particular one, managing your people, is just critically important. So check out Manager Tools, which is a ton of online free tools. One-on-ones is the crux of any employer-employee relationship. And not just employer-employee, but like report management and person under you. One-on-ones, every time I tell people to do this, they kind of groan. Like, oh, really? You want me to set aside a half an hour to meet with people and just listen to them? Yes, I do. These people are working for you and they're making you money. Set aside a half an hour to listen to them. Make it happen. I promise you it will be worth your time. You'll end up spending less time on problems and never will your law firm fall apart on you. How many people have heard horror stories of mass exodus from law firms? Right? At Modern Law Practice, we have a client right now who just experienced that. That can never happen if you're doing one-on-ones because people will tell you everything. You'll know exactly what's going on in your firm, and they want to tell you everything. They want to be heard, and they want to solve problems. That's the other thing that this structure has allowed us to do is because we now have this transparency, and we have the right people, and we have the right team, and we're doing management, and we're doing one-on-ones, my team solves problems now. I don't run around trying to solve everyone's problems, and they don't look to me to solve problems. They come to me with solutions. They come to me with, hey, I think this is wrong, and I think here's what we should do to try to fix it. It's incredible. And that is what happens when you go to relationship-based management and you know who you are. That's why this crust and this sauce are the first two things that we're talking about. Radical Candor is another book that I highly recommend you check out. It's really good, and it's Radical Candor. And the basic premise is care deeply and speak truth. Do not hold back. So working at my firm is hard. We did a retreat not long ago where the first opening of this retreat, every single person in my firm told every other person in the office what their greatest strength was to the organization and their greatest weakness to the organization. Right? I love that look, because it's like, you want me to do what? But that's radical candor. And it was crazy cool. People were crying, they were hugging, like they love each other very, very much. And when people get off, everybody else knows it. They're here to support them. I have a team that doesn't have turnover, and that's why, because of radical candor. It's amazing. Hold meetings. There's a reason that companies, real companies that operate and make money and are profitable and have business models that are functioning really well, they have meetings. So do it. Have them weekly, have them quarterly, have them annually. And when you get off track, and you still will, it's not like everything's perfect. We get off track all the time. But when we get off track, we just get back on a whole lot faster. This is the sauce. When you've got sauce, everything just works better. Next is cheese. Cheese is clients. This is marketing, intake, consultations, and getting your clients actually in the door. If you think about Jack's life cycle, this is everything up until what Clio used to do before they hired before they acquired Lexicata. Make sense on the continuum, client journey? Cool. And I love this. So, why do people choose you? Jack stole my talk. We'll forgive him, it's okay. He didn't know. I'm gonna skip ahead. Here's a hack. Go to your reviews and read what your clients are telling you they value. And then take those words and use them in your marketing materials and make sure that you're delivering on what it is that they value. So I picked 3 from Avo, and none of them talk about my experience, and none of them talk about where I went to law school. None of them really even talk about whether or not I won. So, but what they do say, there is a theme. They want to be informed. They want to know what's happening. Communication. Your people, your employees want more feedback than you're giving them. They do. They want more communication than you're giving them. Your clients do too. Your clients will never complain about too much communication, ever. And feeling like you had a friend and being guided and being supported. Next one, same thing. I was referred to Billie by a close friend, and I got, what, a sense of relief. She seemed to understand where I was at emotionally, supportive and encouraging. Timely in responses, answered my questions, made me feel comfortable, prepared, and knowledgeable, and fun to work with. So use this. Look at your reviews, study them. If you don't have reviews, look at other people. Look at the lawyers that you like and see what clients are saying. If we want to know what our clients are thinking, all we have to do is ask and then listen. And incorporate that idea, incorporate what they want and your values into every single marketing material you have. This is your hack. Now you know what to say. How fun, right? Now, what do you do with your leads? Intake's a big deal. Intake is probably the #1 opportunity that we all have to make more money immediately, like today. Like go back to your law office and make more money today by changing intake. Think about who you have answering your phone and what other jobs they have going and what other things are you asking them to do? Do they have time to be present on the phone? Do they have time to answer it when it calls? Do they have time to be present? Are they sounding disconnected or not? Because every single client in my firm is worth $6,500. That's our average client spend. And when you think about it that way, every single time somebody calls, you have the opportunity to be making roughly $6,500. And we'll break that down percentage-wise. But if you don't have somebody who's there and who's present, you're missing opportunities. Then we've got the consultation. We break down, consultations are not like lawyering. Consultations is sales. Lawyers hate the word sales, but it is. This is sales. And so it's really hard to be present for sales if you've got a million other things that you're doing, right? You're in the middle of drafting, it's really hard. So, but I need you to think about this as a separate skill set. And the way that we think about it, we break down the consultation into 3 steps, really. Your greeting, where you're bonding and connecting, likability. Active listening, which is a good 40 or so minutes of the consultation, is just listening to the client and asking them questions. I'm not issue spotting, I'm not analyzing. What I'm doing is seeking to understand. Because you can't, it's so easy for us to just jump to problem solving. But we usually don't have all the information to solve the problem in the best way without truly listening. We usually jump to the legal solution, and sometimes that's awful. One example, I had somebody come in and the notes were horrible, like 3 people had turned her down. to work with her. Other lawyers were like, no, we're not going to touch this. This is awful. Okay, so here's the quick fact pattern. She was married, but she had 2 babies via IVF, and the husband, was not the dad. And the husband also, like biologically, wasn't the dad and had not adopted the babies. And he was bipolar and like off the rails, like abusive, I think suicide attempt, hospitalized, like we had an issue. The legal process would have been tough for this, but you know what? We just orchestrated an out-of-court settlement based on all the facts we had and like wrapped that up. But unless we really listen to our clients and like pull out all of the information, well, what did he do? And really, really understand the motivations of people, then we can't do a great job. We can't solve their problems as well as we could. And then closing, which is true sales. How do you close a deal? So it's important to practice each of these steps. And then we use a plain language fee agreement. One of the things that I really like, that I'm sort of obsessed with, is psychology books. And Influence is one of the best ones that you can read. People make decisions based on pre-programmed hacks that we've developed as humans over the years that are universal to all cultures. And we can and should be incorporating these hacks into our processes to serve our clients and absolutely to get business, to close business deals. After you get clients, then you get to now you have room, right? You know the kind of dough that you're using, you know the kind of pizza that you're offering, you've got the right people on your team, you've got clients, you know your process, and now we get to do fun stuff like automate and use tech and use data to make hacks and make your practice even better. Now, have you ever tried pizza before with toppings that you hated? Yeah, you have? Did you like the pizza? No. So one of the things that I think we often do is we will see a really cool technology, we'll try to implement it in our law firm, and then we'll write our processes around the technology. How many of us have tried that? I tried that. And that's not the best way to do it. The best way to do it is to figure out how you want something done and then find technology that makes it easier to do it. One of the ways we did this was with Trello. So this is Trello. How many people have used Trello before? Cool. Trello's cool. John Grant is a big Agile guy, and I was working with him and trying to figure out processes and workflows and project management for cases. Because one of the ways that we can communicate proactively with our clients is by knowing what's happening next and not being in reactive mode. Many of us wait to deal with things that need to be dealt with when we get an email or when we get a document in the door, as opposed to knowing what we're doing with our cases. So what we did with Trello was we took every Friday morning for a little while, for about 3 months, we had a meeting every Friday morning. And we took a wall and we put each case name on sticky notes in columns. The onboarding column, the pre-trial conferences column, we call this phase 2, which is like mediation, discovery, third-party experts, trial prep, and trial, And we took each client that we had, we put them on a different color sticky note that corresponded with the attorney that was working on their case, and then had a little checklist in each phase. And you got to move the cards along the wall to move your cases forward. And that's how we learned project management, because none of us have been taught project management. It's not that hard, but at the same time, it's not something that we've been taught. It's not something that's ever been talked about. And once we got the concept and we got it physically and it worked for us and we perfected what we wanted to have on our checklist for the different phases, then we started using Trello. And this is my fun Game of Thrones board. You have Sansa Stark and Brienne of Tarth on there in these different phases in their family law case. So, but doing it manually before doing it technologically just made the process of implementation within the firm that much easier. Why is data important? Instead of telling you, I'm going to show you. We're going to walk through intake, sales leads, and what happens when you make tweaks and what that does to your bottom line. So here's what we track in terms of sales key performance indicators. Leads, how many of them schedule, how many of them attend, how many of them become clients, how many new clients are we getting each month, what is the average client spend, and therefore, how much monthly revenue are we bringing in? Here's the baseline. 100 leads, 50 of them schedule, 30 initial consultations happen a month. Our conversion rate is 50%, so we're getting 15 new clients a month. We know that the average spend is $6,500, and so our baseline monthly revenue is roughly $100,000, okay? So at the beginning of 2018, I started really focusing on tweaking intake and worked with an outside team to take over intake and really study these numbers and try different things and really figure out how to impact these numbers. And what happened when I brought in this outside team is now I wasn't spending any more money on marketing, but the number of leads stayed the same, but the number of people that were scheduling was now up to 65. And 45 people were showing up. Now, we left our conversion rate exactly the same. That meant I was now getting 22 new clients a month. I kept the average client spend exactly the same. That didn't change. But now, my monthly revenue was almost $150,000, only by changing intake. This is monthly revenue. But I stopped doing consultations, and none of these numbers always stay the same. And when I stopped doing consultations, our conversion rate dropped. So we had 100 leads, we had 65 people scheduled, 45 people showed up for ICs, but our conversion rate dropped from 50 to 40. Doesn't sound like a big deal, right? Well, instead of having 22 new clients, we were only getting 18 new clients, which meant our monthly revenue was down at $117,000. Because we track it, we knew this had fallen. We knew this was an issue. So we decided to do a workshop. And we did a workshop where for a couple hours, we went through everything that I talked about before about how I think that we should do consultations. What's our greeting look like? How is someone greeted when they come in? I want them greeted by name. I want you to smile. I want my receptionist to find something they like to compliment them on because it's the nice thing to do, and this is how humans work. I want you to offer them something and to give them something because when someone receives a gift, it impacts the way they feel, and it makes them more likely to like you and then buy from you. And it's too easy. Give them something. Just give them a hot drink. And then we walked through role-playing and listening. And this was kind of cool because I had done a podcast on Lawyerist on intake, and I talked about how important it is to listen to your clients and stop talking, and how your clients think you're smarter the less you say. It's pretty crazy, but it's true. And I was talking to one very experienced lawyer who was like, I don't know, Billie, that might work for you, but I don't know. I tried that, and it didn't work. So, and I get it, but then we role played, and she had a character of a client, and another lawyer was being the lawyer, and in the midst of role playing, the lawyer was explaining lots of good information, and I watched the fake lawyer in the role play. We're gonna call her Jane. Jane was explaining, and Jill was listening, and I watched Jill's eyes kind of glaze over as Jane was talking about dividing property, and I just stopped her and I was like, well, how did that make you feel? And she was like, I guess I feel talked at. And it was one of these aha moments. And so each of us going through this workshop and role-playing was crazy positive. Everybody walked out like we had learned something. This was a sales skill that we'd never had and that we don't get to practice. But here's what's really cool. Our conversion rate went to 76%, which meant that our 65 scheduled and 45 consultations ended up with 34 new clients. If you don't change the average client spend, our revenue now is over $200,000. And so in the midst of experimenting for a few months on intake, revenue doubled. That's why data matters. That's why we have key performance indicators. That's why we live and breathe data, and we are accountable to one another. Now, if you don't know these numbers, you don't know when to hire. I know every time I'm getting 5 new clients a month, I need a new lawyer. I know, based on how many lawyers I have, how many clients I need to be getting, because I know these numbers. I know the capacity of the lawyers. I know the average client spend, which is not an easy number to find. You have to dig through Clio to get that. It's there, but it's not easy to get. But it will predict you growth. So to execute what I'm suggesting, you need your layers, right? Your foundation, the right people, managing those right people, the way that you're communicating, the right clients. That's the other thing that this does, is now because we're really clear about who we are and how we practice, if the wrong client comes to us, we just don't work with them. Like, we know that we are going to practice creatively, optimistically, bravely, which means it's okay not to win all the time. It's okay to take risks on behalf of our clients that they might want us to take, that we're going to keep their whole health in mind and the whole health of their family. So we're not going to do anything that's really nasty just to inflict pain on the other side, because it doesn't feel good. And being a lawyer is hard, and taking home other people's baggage is hard, and being used as a weapon to hurt other families isn't what we're going to do. So it makes it really great, because we can tell the clients, we can tell our potential clients what it's like to work with us and what they can expect and what the deal is. The deal is, here's how we're going to practice, and here's what's expected from you. And when that balance shifts, when we lose that, we simply tell them to go. Now, after you do all of those fun things, you've got your pizza made, everything's working, then we get to start experimenting with super fun other things. And for us, that's Access Legal, where we have paralegal assisted divorce. We built a technology platform a few years ago. I did that out of order, so don't do that. Public-facing documents. One of the things we're going to start experimenting now with is workshops. The idea of letting people who are representing themselves come in and get legal help from a lawyer that's not a one-to-one ratio. So now we get to look at all of these other creative, fun opportunities that are out there to serve our clients in different ways. Flat fees, packages, all of these are great, fun things that you get to add to your pizza. I went quickly, so we have time for questions, or I can go back and fill in some details. Yes?
So when people come, they're coming to hire me.
Right.
Now that you're not seeing clients,
Mm-hmm.
how have you been able to transfer referral sources to work with other attorneys in that initial consultation when they're expecting you?
That's a great question. So he said, how do you hand off clients who come to hire you? We spent a lot of time talking about this in our workshop because it's an issue. And the way that it works best is to think about other companies. In other companies, the salespeople do not do what it is that, whatever it is. Like if they're selling you a software, they're not implementing it. And the way that they do it is confidently. So if you listen to your clients very carefully, and then you say to them, you're going to work with so-and-so. So-and-so is the best person to work on your case because blank, blank, blank. You have this, this, and this going on, and they're great at this, this, and this. If you were my sister, this is who I would have you work with within our firm. Then they just do it. You set up a handoff meeting, you bring the person in, and then as long as they're being well served, they won't have a problem. If they're either a problem client who's just hell-bent on being unhappy, then we get rid of them. And we also make expectations really clear, like this is how it's going to be. If you're not happy with this, it's probably not going to work. And that usually works. Yes?
How do you determine, because I figure a lot as well, how do you determine when the client has reached that point at which it's no longer working and we need to
Yeah, so the question is, how do you know when it's time to break up with a client? I translated that, but that's essentially what she's asking. Well, how do you know when it's time to break up any relationship, right? You're listening to each other, you're talking, you're setting boundaries, you're trying to meet them where they're at. You know, you're checked into your role in their life, which is, to support them through a process. And when you're no longer helping them, when they won't be helped by you, they're not listening, you're not adding value, that's the conversation I have. I don't feel like I'm adding any value here. It feels like you don't trust me. Radical candor. It works really well. Just really honest. It doesn't sound like doesn't sound like this is getting you where you want to go. Maybe we should get you to another attorney. Most of the time, they're like, no. Okay, you're right. We'll listen. Go ahead. Okay.
Hi. So, how do you motivate your team with analyzing the sales? Because obviously, the sales to generate more clients. That's going to help the firm, obviously. So, do you tie that into if you help the firm develop business, there's a bonus at the end of this for you, or what's the buy-in for your team to really create more work for the office?
Okay. So, great question. Couple questions, actually. So our team has a bonus structure that's a group bonus structure. When we, as a company, hit our target revenue and our target net promoter score in a quarter, everybody bonuses a set amount. That's a non-discretionary bonus. People can get additional discretionary bonuses on top of that for individual performance, but the group bonus, that's just how it is. And we're meeting and talking about these numbers every week so everybody knows where we're at. There's buy-in because of transparency. Because we as a group talk about why this is important and what these numbers are and how we're trending, and we go over every piece of client feedback that we get also as part of these meetings. So if we get a review or a net promoter score, that's part of our agenda on Fridays when we're having our company meeting and we go over it. That, coupled with the numbers, creates buy-in. Your other question was, how do I incentivize them to create business? And I really don't, or I haven't until now. That part has always been my job and my role. We recently created a marketing team, though, and I think I was doing this wrong because the same way that I had tried to kind of handle things myself and tackle problems myself. I had always said, don't worry about marketing, I'll do it myself. Well, because I like it. But nevertheless, we started a marketing committee, and one of our paralegals had a friend at the Teamsters, and now we're doing all their legal work. And somebody else is really great at BNI networking, and now we're doing that. And so I think I'm on a journey just like every single one of you are, but learning together what we're trying to accomplish and then bring people in who want to be on that to help achieve those goals is the best way to do it. I don't know what that will mean as far as bonuses or compensation, but it's something that we'll talk about. And if they have ideas, they'll tell me. They'll say, here's what I think you should do. Yeah.
So, my firm is like your firm, but like 3 years away from where
Yes.
you are at right now. My biggest problem is the growth is going so fast that I am continually having to work as a lawyer and figure out these processes that you are doing. So how did you manage that? I'm also a mom, so it's just like,
Yeah.
I'm exhausted.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so that was a great question. So if you're growing, there's so much to do. One of the things that has really helped is, so we have these quarterly meetings, and part of the quarter meetings are ROCs, which is another term that came from Traction. And these are projects, infrastructure projects. So I'm not doing it all myself. Even though I'm the only owner, whatever it is that we're working on, checklists, processes, procedures. Right now, Candace, one of my paralegals over here, is championing uniform billing within my law office. And everybody takes a different piece. That's how we can do it and still take care of our children and sleep and go to yoga and all those things. Yeah, it is hard.
Hi. So I have actually a few questions. I'm right here.
Hi.
Hi. Can you tell us how many people are in your team? And then I'm also interested in how many people are involved in the intake sales process.
Yeah.
And what software you use for the intake, just to kind of figure out what the funnel looks like.
Sure. I think the team's 15 people. And that is, does that count intake? No, it doesn't count intake. So our intake team, we actually have a partnership with a company that we've created an intake process with. So they are executing the intake process that I first designed within the firm. Whitney over here used to do intake within the firm, and now she's doing marketing and other cool stuff. So the software that I'm using now looks kind of like, I don't know if you were at the launch code yesterday, but it's a lot of different pieces. It's a scheduling software, it's a CRM and email campaigns, but I think a lot of us have a tendency to focus too much on the software. The software isn't what makes it magic. What makes it magic is the steps that the people take. Then the software gives us data. The software gives us checklists and prompts on what the people need to do. But the real magic is answering the phone and being present and asking the right questions that are not how many kids do you have, but oh my gosh, when did this happen? Tell me more about that. Do you have family around supporting you? Like, these are not legal questions, but that magical. People are like, oh my gosh, this is who I want to work with. These people care about me. They're going to move me along in my journey. That is who I want. So does that answer your question?
It does, thanks.
Okay. Yes.
How did you come up with that chart, the little sheet you had for your personnel evaluations? And can you show that slide again?
Yes. Yeah, let's walk through that. Okay, so the worksheet is from the book Traction. They have what's called the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And a lot of what we do is based on the infrastructure that they suggest. And this is a tool from that. So the values on top are your values. So before you can do this, you have to take that retreat and really figure out, who am I at my core? Like, what is it that makes me unique, and like, why do people hire me, and what do I love about my job? That will allow you to figure out your values that go on top, and then your people go along the side, and then you're just asking, does Kylie embody a growth mindset? All the time, sometimes, or never? And people go through phases. Like, let's say somebody gets in a slump. That's going to happen. It doesn't mean you fire them immediately. You might have a talk about it. You know, you might say, hey, it feels like you've been down lately. What's going on? That sort of thing. What else? Yes. Gino Wickham is the author of Traction. Yes.
You talk about being transparent with your staff. You also talk about with bonuses how your staff know whether you're making progress, what progress you're making on those. How transparent are you about like bottom line numbers? Like, do your staff know? Does all your staff know what your monthly revenue is every month?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You can't report the numbers of the people tracking time and have them not know your revenue. You know what I mean? Like, we have an annual goal, and actually we've got a 10-year goal, which is $10 million. And then we're working backwards. And so we've got a number this year, and that number changes, and everybody knows what it is, and everybody knows if we're on track. I don't know why people are uncomfortable talking about money. Let's Let's just get it out there. People don't like talking about money. People don't like talking about money with their clients. People don't like talking about money with their staff or their people. It feels weird. We just like unveil the curtain. We'll just talk about it. And we talk about it with our clients, and our accounts receivable rate's 95? It dropped. 92? We like it up at like 98, 99, above 95. But we talk about money with them. Hey, you've got this thing coming up. Here's how much it's going to cost. Is this in your budget? Does it make sense for us to do it this way? Kind of takes a lot of pressure off. Kind of takes the conflict away because we're treating them like a friend. Or I was talking to a woman the other day, and she's like, well, how am I going to pay for this? I'm like, well, let's talk about that. Yes? No. So I try to achieve a model that is 50% of all of our revenue goes towards employee costs. That's all employee costs. That's salaries, benefits, all of that. 30% on marketing, fixed fees, and 20% for profits. We don't actually achieve that all the time, and that's okay. A lot of times we'll be investing a lot more in growth, which means that 50% goes closer to 60 or 65%. That's okay because it's intentional. But we're just really clear about it. So one of the other things that I asked my team at the beginning of one of our retreats, so we do them quarterly, which gives you a real opportunity to listen and check in. And I always do some sort of employee engagement survey, which they write down. And one of the things I asked them was, do you feel adequately compensated? And somebody said, I don't know, which totally fair answer. She wrote down, I don't know. So we had a one-on-one, and I was talking to her about it, and I'm like, tell me more about this. And she's like, well, I just don't know if I am. Like, well, here's how I got to the number, and then we talk about it. I looked at the average thing. We're looking at, your percentage of salary and costs, based on what you're billing. Here's the percentage you're at. That looks to me like it's right, but tell me how you're feeling. And she's like, oh, I feel really good about this now. Thanks for telling me that. So I think we lose conflict if we're just honest. Like, we're all trying to accomplish something together. And as the firm grows, everybody gets to make more money. Yes?
Talk a little bit about your advertising strategy and marketing campaigns that you use and kind of how that evolved from when you started to now, when obviously clients are daily clients is not as much of an issue as probably when you initially started, kind of what kind of practices you use after that.
So when I first started, it was all low cost, limited scope, pay as you go. So that was an easy thing to sell. I was competing on price. That's not a good long-term strategy. So we don't do that anymore. Now we're communicating value. We're communicating outcomes. We're telling stories that make it clear that we understand them, and we're using a lot of hacks, like like the book that I give away that is about Arizona divorce, that just immediately kind of increases your apparent authority, is the magic word from influence. We're stepping up the networking because I haven't done it in years. And referrals are still magical. Reviews, I think, are critical. So part of our business process, we are collecting Net Promoter Score every time a case closes by having our intake people call. So we get Net Promoter Scores regularly and in the same way for every single person that closes. Because that's the only way that the score movement is controlled. The way that we ask the question on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely would you to rate us to your family and friends, changes depending on when we ask the question in the case and who asks. So we do it uniformly. And then we're getting feedback, and part of that is let's say they say, yeah, they were great, blah, 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 blah. The team writes down exactly what they said, and then we say, thank you so much, would you mind leaving a review? They say, yes, we will, fabulous. Then we send them an Amazon gift card thanking them so much for their time in advance, because we're not paying people for reviews, but we are incentivizing them to do it. And then they leave reviews, and then we take those reviews, and we incorporate them into our advertising. Yes, right here, sorry.
So how would we plan and execute our first retreat if we've never done
Ooh,
one?
I love that question.
And do you use a consultant? What do you do? How do you plan it?
I love that question so much. So we have some time, but for anybody who's interested in continuing the conversation, Modern Law Practice is having a networking event at 2:05. And we can totally dive into any more of these details. One of the things that company does is retreats for business planning. So there's one in December where we're planning out for law firms, what does your next year look like? What's your budget? What's your retreat? What's your agendas? You can hire a facilitator, or you can do it yourself. We had a facilitator do it, I think, only once in the 3 years or so that we've been doing this. So most of the time we do it ourselves. There's agendas in Traction that you can use, sample agendas, but we usually mix it up each time. It's always off-site, and we are going into that with numbers, right? Everybody knows before we go in, like we just finished Q3, we're going into Q4, everybody knows where we ended, where we need to be, kind of thinking about, okay, what are the things we might want to tackle? We ruminate on it for a few weeks before we do the retreat, and then everybody just dives in. Yes. Salaries? I think she said, would you consider having an open book practice? So, salaries are interesting. Some people have compensation models where they are paid a percentage, and some firms do that uniformly across the board. And that seems, it's very transparent and probably pretty fair. The downside is that my team does a whole lot more than just bills hours. Like, they're working on building an infrastructure in a company, and it feels like you're not getting compensated for that if you're only getting paid a percentage. So I don't know how to answer that. Yes, I would consider that. Yes.
So part of how you market, it seems like in consult is like being a friend.
Yeah.
Being a good active listener. And I do that too. But I have trouble drawing boundaries later on with people. How do you do that?
So I think about our role. We're not really best friends. You're paying me to be a great friend, and I'm checked in, and I'm going to be a great friend when we're talking. Really, even a better friend than I would be to another friend, because another friend I would expect to like be able to talk sometimes, but I don't expect that at all. Like, they don't have to listen to me. I'm a friend for hire, you know? Like, you're the supportive best friend for hire that just is like right there. That's my role. But I have a life and other things to do, and I'm just really clear that here's where my role ends. So you have to decide, and different clients require, I think, different boundaries. But I think checking in and taking care of yourself and knowing when someone's crossed your boundary is probably the key.
Are you communicating those boundaries early on with clients, even in the consult, or are you?
No, I'm not. When I practiced, I had few clients that paid lots of dollars and was very available. And that works if you have few clients. And it doesn't work if you have more than a few clients. And at that point, I think that the boundaries have to be different. And each attorney draws different boundaries with their clients. Like, I have one attorney who simply does not work on weekends or evenings, really. And then I have other attorneys who do, and they're fine with that. And that's okay. Like, part of our values is allowing the lawyers to work in the way that works for them. And one of my paralegals is like the most amazing, supportive human in the world who sometimes doesn't take care of herself. And so part of our job as a company and management is to support her in drawing those boundaries. Yes. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm a younger solo and looking at acquiring the practice of an older solo. Your presentation was about you building the firm as the owner. What about when you need to interact with another lawyer in a setting like that, modernizing a practice that you would be acquiring? Any advice on that lawyer-to-lawyer discussion?
I don't think that that's terribly different from bringing on a lawyer who has a lot of experience and a practice and a reputation, maybe. So the most important thing is there a good culture fit? Because if there isn't, then the clients of the person that you're acquiring won't be happy because they bought Bob. And if you don't feel like Bob, it may be an issue. Something to look out for sure.
Sorry,
All right, that's it. We're out of time. Thanks, guys.
Perfect. Thanks.